Incredible stuff. Well, we are finally live. Joe, I've been looking forward to this. You don't know for how long. I think since the beginning, when I started the LinkedIn Life Hacks with Mac channel, and I'd been reading one of your books. I was like, I got to get this guy on here. And that was 3.5 years ago. So, folks, thank you for joining us. And Joe, and I'm pronouncing this right, Pulizzi?
That's totally acceptable. In the States we say Pulizzi. But if you were in Sicily, you'd say Pulizzi. So you're totally fine. Hey, what took you so long? 3.5 years? We could have done this a while ago.
Well,
I'm just busting. It's all good.
I tell you what, far too many. But the exciting thing is we are finally speaking, and I think after many years, it feels like I've known you for years because of listening to Content Inc. On the audiobook, on many drives. And it's, for those of you that are just joining us for the first time now, 100%, either go and get that on audiobook or go and get it in hardcover if you like, highlighting things and following it through. But it's almost it's become like a content Bible for me, like just to go back to some of the basics, because it's so easy to go off tilt when it comes to what we're doing. So for those of you who don't know Joe, please go and connect. I doubt there's anybody who doesn't when it comes to marketing. But if you've been hiding under a rock, go and check out Joe's profile. 250,000 LinkedIn followers. That's excluding all the other profiles. Multiple businesses that he's built within the marketing space. Coined the phrase content marketing. Was that 2001, 2002?
Well, it's hard to say I coined it because there were people using that phrase in the 90s. But 2001, I started to dabble with it. And then we probably, us and the wonderful team at Content Marketing Institute, we did a really good job popularizing the term and tried to force it down the industry's throat so they accepted, the industry at the time was called custom publishing, custom media. And no marketers wanted to talk about custom publishing or custom media. So we had to come up with a term that marketers would accept. And, if you know marketing, you have to use something marketing, search engine marketing, social media marketing, direct marketing. Oh, content marketing. So that's, and then really started to push that in 2007 when I left business publishing and went in to launch what became Content Marketing Institute.
Sure. Well, just for those watching, just to give you a little bit of a kind of what to expect during this conversation. Firstly, Joe has said nothing is off limits. So this is going to be an interesting conversation. I'm looking forward to picking his brain. But for those of you that are sitting out there and you have questions for Joe, we will have a chance to answer questions through to the latter part of this conversation. So please drop those in. Joel Felsenstein, who is doing the background stuff from Rockstar X, he will star those so that we can go and put those up on the screen and ask those questions later in the conversation. I will also have about 10 questions that I've already passed on to Joe that we're going to be discussing in a bit more depth that people have been asking me the moment I mentioned, oh, by the way, I'm going to be having this conversation with Joe. There we go. Lark Ambrose, one of my co-hosts on one of my shows. It's all about popularize the term. And, Joe, you've had so many conversations around, I doubt there's a question you haven't been asked when it comes to marketing. But I'm keen on really picking your brains about where we're going with marketing, because you mentioned, around 2001 and the fact that in the 90s, people were already starting to use this term. And we're in 2024 and a lot of people have only really grasped content marketing as business owners or even marketers over the last 4 or 5 years. So for some people, it's still a very new concept, but it's been around for ages. And, things are, kind of being, people say they're reinventing the wheel, but reality is they just, churning old ideas and putting it into new ways. And we've got, things like AI, which now all of a sudden the last 2 years has been a huge thing, but it's been around for years. So, I really want to see where this conversation will progress. So, for those of you listening, go and drop your questions because Joe said nothing's off limits. So I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of questions you have out there if you're going to be asking them. But Joe, give us a bit of an insight. I know we were kind of having a pre-chat of where you're at with just within yourself right now, because you've done copious amounts of work around marketing, running various businesses, selling businesses. But where are you at within life right now when it comes to just Joe?
Well, thanks, Mac, for having me. I appreciate it. I think the first thing to know is I fell in love with the practice of content marketing back in the 2000s because I thought it was it was the purest form of marketing I could find. How can I just deliver value to a customer or an audience or a prospect and just give value and help them live a better life in some way, get a better job, whatever the overall goal is of the communication. And if we do that really, really well, and we deliver that information on a regular basis, they'll come to know, like, and trust us. And if they know, like, and trust us, they're more apt to buy from us. I mean, that's sort of the definition of content marketing. And I basically spent the last 25 years trying to evangelize this practice. Now you'd think, content marketing has been around that long and there's huge budgets going toward it, but that's absolutely not true. If you look at content marketing versus, let's say, advertising in general, advertising is the sun and content marketing is Pluto. It's not even a planet. So as much as we talk about it, as much as we say, oh, we should do a podcast, or we should do videos, or we should do a documentary, or event series, or webinar, or whatever the case is, most companies either don't do very much or they don't do it very well. And we could talk about some of the reasons for that. But the first chapter of my professional career after I left business publishing was basically, how do we train marketers in this practice of content marketing and to build a documented strategy and do all those things. And we had an event, Content Marketing Institute, and we had an event called Content Marketing World, which is all still going today. My wife and I own that business. We sold in 2016. And then left and did a bunch of other things. I've been writing books, and I wrote a novel called The Will to Die. And then COVID came along and I started another business, which my wife wasn't too happy about, but it happened. And then that business called The Tilt, which is an e-newsletter for content creators who want to be content entrepreneurs. We launched an event called CEX, Content Entrepreneur Expo.
Yeah.
Both of those are still doing well. We sold that business last year. I'm still very much involved in that business. And I spend my time, I have a podcast called This Old Marketing every Friday. My Content Inc. podcast, 5 minutes every Monday. I do a newsletter called The Orange Letter. I still speak around the world. I love speaking. And I'm still just trying to talk about this thing that I love so much, content marketing, which so many people just don't seem to have a good handle on. So maybe those are some things we could talk about.
Oh, well, that was a very concise kind of summary of all the things.
25, my entire business life. Yeah. 25 years. There you go.
I tell you what, that was impressive, because I tried to summarize it and came into 3 pages, and I was like,
nobody wants that.
Nobody wants that. Data dump.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the same time, one of the points that you mentioned there, that the know, like, and trust factor through content marketing. Why do so many people just get it wrong? I mean, there's no, like, it's almost like what's the word, clinical in most people's content, content marketing, as opposed to building the know, like, and trust factor.
We fall into the trap of wanting to talk about us first. We want to talk about our products, our services, the things that we find important. And when we do that, we fall down a trap of really, really bad content and information and sales speak that nobody wants. So really what we want to focus on is, who is your audience that you're going after? You might have many audiences. If you're a business owner, if you're a marketer, you have many different audiences. But when we want to do content marketing really well, we want to focus on one. So who is that audience and what are their pain points? What keeps them up at night? You got to know them better than anyone else. And so that's part of the content creation process. It's just not about what we want to communicate. It's, yes, you have a certain expertise. You want to be an expert in something, but you have to match that on the other side, which with the pain points of that audience. And that output is, this is my content niche. Okay, great. Let's say you have your content niche. You're going to do a podcast on this topic or an e-newsletter on this topic. Where do people fall down from there? They don't create what we call a content tilt. They don't create some kind of differentiation to break through all that content clutter out there. So if you're starting anything today, what's amazing about today is that anyone can start anything. All they need is an iPhone. It doesn't cost it costs barely anything to get something going. At the same time, it costs barely anything for anybody to do anything. So that means there's content run amok everywhere. How are you going to break through? So you have to think a little bit and say, and I don't want to say it's a gimmick. Some people will say, what's your gimmick? Like some people might say, oh,
Yeah,
Joe,
the
your
silver
gimmick.
bullet.
Yeah, your gimmick is you wear orange, or your gimmick, Joe, is you renamed it content marketing, which all had something a little bit to do with it. But when we looked out, we're like, okay, how can we talk about this thing a little bit differently? What can we focus on with a customer that nobody's really focused on? Is there a gap, a content gap in the marketplace somewhere? And that's where you use tools like AI, and you can use Google Trends to find out. You could talk to your customers. Oh my God, you could actually figure out, what are their pain points? What does keep them up at night? So figure out those things. And from that standpoint, it's that content tilt, which most people don't take that extra step to figure out what truly differentiates them. And then the other big thing, Mac, is people don't deliver consistently. We know what works is you focus on one platform, you deliver consistent information on that platform over a long period of time. And most marketers and most content creators start something and they almost immediately stop. They'll go 3 months, they'll go 6 months, or they'll say, I'm going to deliver every week, but it's every other week. It's all over the place. So you've got to think like a media company, like a publisher. So when you commit to doing something, you're making a promise to your audience, to your customer, to your prospect, that you're going to deliver something when you say you're going to deliver it. And most businesses actually don't do that.
It's interesting because I found out about a year ago that I've got ADHD, which is one of the things that is a challenge with regards to the consistency, but it's also a bonus because when you get laser focused, you just get things done. But what you mentioned there, I see that every day with regards to people showing up. They try it for 3 months and they say it doesn't work. You look at LinkedIn's 160 odd feature updates this year alone. There's no way by doing it for 3 months you're going to figure out.
That's right.
So I'd love to know, like, with all of that, I mean, I've seen so many people show up, and for me, the almost differentiating moment was when I was listening to Content Inc. and you were talking about some of these concepts, and I went, oh, okay, why am I always posting it? And I went and looked at my content and it was like all about my business, our software, our this, our that, and I was like, oh no. And I was like, okay, we got to change that. And I asked all these questions, and it felt like overnight. It took a few weeks, but once you've got that tilt and you know what that pain point is, who you're speaking to, that made all the difference. All of a sudden we weren't price negotiating on everything, because before that we wanted anybody and everybody to buy, and this was my security company. And everybody, you kept having that, oh, well, I can't afford it, all those kind of conversations. But the moment you make the differentiation, all of a sudden you find the right clients in the right places. So, talk to me about, that side of things, because there are so many marketers, as you said, that are out there probably watching this or will watch the replay on one of the platforms that are, they're doing the same kind of stuff. They're trying to help. They found themselves 2 or 3 clients. They're doing some stuff, but getting to that stage where they differentiate,
Sure.
especially in today's market. Like, what advice would you have for them?
Well, I think the first thing, just as a business owner, and I had to learn this along with everyone else, is you have to understand that no one cares about you. They don't care about you. They don't, like, you really have to, because you're so excited to share. You're launching a business or you sell this and you just want to get that out. You got to remember, nobody cares. Nobody cares. How do you make people care? You make people care by caring about them first. So if you care about your customers, you're going to say, I want to deliver something that's going to help them. That's it. And a lot of people don't want to do that. And you have to do that, as you said, over time. So if you're sitting there and saying, I'd like to try a newsletter, or I'd like to do articles, or I'd like to do a podcast, and your timetable is 6 to 9 months, I would absolutely request that you don't do it at all. Like, you just say, go advertise. By the way, you don't have to do content marketing. You don't have to build a channel and build an audience somewhere. You could decide not to. So if you're only going to give it 6 to 9 months, just don't do it. Just go just go promote yourself like everyone else does. and hopefully, fingers crossed, something will happen. But if you say, I'm patient, I know this is a marathon and not a sprint. I know that it takes a long time to build a relationship with somebody, particularly someone that you don't talk to on a regular basis, or you've never met before, or is not a family member of yours, or a cousin, or whatever. So you're doing this as a complete stranger, and you're trying to build some kind of relationship with them. It takes 9, 12, 15, 18 months. If I was going to say when you should start to feel good about the thing you're doing, and when I say thing, it's different for everyone. It could be a YouTube channel, it could be a webinar series, it could be books, it could be whatever. I would say at minimum, give it 12 months. 18 months, you should really start to see something. When I started my blog in April of 2007, first 6 months, I thought I was the biggest failure ever. Boy, no, but my mom was reading it, but other than that, I'm not getting a lot of traction. So this is going to be a problem for the business, right? But lo and behold, you get to 9 months, you get to 12 months, you get to 15 months, things to start happening. A lot of qualitative things. People start mentioning you. You get emails coming in. You get some solid referrals. When you get to 18 months and you build 18, 20 months, you might get to something called a minimum viable audience, which basically means you get to enough of an audience where you can actually start to monetize. Monetizing in many ways. You might sell more consulting services, more products. You might actually be able to sell advertising from your content. You might be able to launch a paid event. Those are the types of things I'm talking about. So I guess I would just say you've got to do all the things we talked about finding some differentiation, but you have to actually go through the pain. And generally what happens, to be honest, is you get to that 6 to 7 to 8 month mark and you'll do a little pivot. You'll really, because whatever you start with and you say, that could be my differentiation. I'm going to be the content marketing expert. I'm going to go out. Well, you get enough data, you set up enough what we call listening posts, which means you're getting all this information from surveys and from your audience. You'll start to realize, hey, maybe it's not just content marketing. Maybe for you, it's like, oh, I want to be a social media expert. No, maybe it's just LinkedIn. Maybe LinkedIn is where my expertise is. Maybe I can differentiate that way. But you don't know that right away until you get the feedback, and you're not going to get the feedback until you put out the content on a regular basis.
A lot of people listening to this might go, well, that sounds obvious. But the reality is we've all seen so many people come and go. And, everybody wants this, the silver bullet. They want to know, like you say, what's the kind of, what's your spin? What's the trick? And that, overnight success. I keep people, hearing people go, oh, well, you were lucky because it was the right time. And then when you look at people's history, 99% of success. I've got to be careful on my pronunciation. Successful people, it didn't happen overnight.
No.
Whether it be a footballer or it be a movie star that's been for hundreds of auditions, or a marketing organization, none of it happens overnight. And that's why I love the fact that you said, if you're not willing to stick it out and be consistent, it's easier just to say, let's not do it.
Let's just don't do it. And the other thing to remember is, look, is it possible to win the lottery and to be, let's say you launch something on TikTok and it goes viral and you're able to take advantage of that? Does that happen? Every once in a while, you'll see it happen, and then the business takes off. I just don't see it very often. There's a lot of luck that's involved. I don't know that model. Talk to somebody else that knows that model. I can't figure that out. What I do understand more is a model like Mr. Beast. Like, everybody looks at Mr. Beast. Oh my God, he's got 350 million people subscribed to him on YouTube. He's going to be a multi-billionaire. He's going to have the largest media company on the planet at some point. Overnight success, right? Started in 2012. Focused on just one platform. Started to tinker it out. Finally, after a year and a half, he finally found a topic that was really starting to work for him. Got 30,000 subs by 2016. That's 4 years. 2017 hit 1 million, and then onward and upward. So really 3 to 4 years it took. A lot of people don't have that kind of patience. Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast did. So that's the model that if you go over and over again, if you look at the leading media companies, If you look at the entrepreneurs that are really taking off on some of these platforms, you'll realize, you'll go back into their history and say, oh, I see. It doesn't happen overnight. So we really have to commit to something to make it work.
Absolutely. And that consistency is key. It's something that quite a few people that I've done various LinkedIn audio and discussions about, consistency comes in all the time. And obviously knowing your why is another big thing. But talk to me, but we touched on this very briefly just before we went live. You mentioned that you absolutely love writing, and you're creating, you've been creating content for 20 odd years. And in the age of this whole AI thing that we're going into, and a lot of people, you mentioned about using it to replace yourself or enhance or improve or as a tool.
Sure.
Where do you think that fits in? What's your kind of viewpoint on that and advice for people when it comes to where we're at with AI?
Well, I think that if you create anything, you should be experimenting with some of these tools, whether that's a Perplexity or a ChatGPT or Claude or whatever the case is. I think it's great to take 10% of your time and figure it out, because I think a lot, especially if people are looking for jobs out there, your job is not going to be replaced by somebody, but your job is not going to be replaced by AI. It's going to be replaced by somebody who understands how to use AI tools. It's really, really important clarification, because there's AI is not just, it's somebody else in that role that's doing that. Now, the thing about content creation is, I think that the thought is that, oh, hey, so AI will do my writing for me. If you let AI do writing for you, at least at this time, and I don't know about what's going to happen in the future, but AI means average information. You're going to get absolutely average information. It's not going to have a point of view. It's not going to be differentiated. They're going to take all the stuff that's out there and try to regurgitate something to whatever question you asked them or whatever prompt that you gave it. That doesn't excite me. What excites me is, how do I use AI to do all the little things that, like ideation? I can, and I do this all the time. I can create a persona on Chat GPT 4.0, and I can ask that persona questions. I don't have that person right with me, that customer. So I created something as part of a thread so that I can ask that question. Is it perfect? No. Does it help get ideas flowing? Absolutely. I use it for ideation all the time. If there's small things like, hey, instead of going out and finding an image and spending 30 minutes finding the right image, can I ask ChatGPT to create an image for me? If it's not all that critical to my content creation process, great, I can do that. But if it's part of actually sitting down and creating the content, I need some friction. As a human being, I need to go through some of that to come up with some of the thoughts and original ideas that right now AI is not going to do. And by the way, there's thousands of books created every day that are being done by AI. It's everywhere, folks. There's more content that we're engaging in right now on the internet that is generated by robots than generated by human beings. In the very near future, 90% of all the content that you engage with, you won't know that. You won't know this. It's going to be automated. It's going to be content coming from some kind of AI or some kind of bot. That's fine. That's where we're going. But that doesn't mean that that's going to help you grow your business. That's all the other stuff. That's media. That's like the news. Those are headlines. Those are all sorts of things. So what can you do with it? Have it help you. Try it helping with you for ideas of things to write about. That's great, right? Have it do some persona development for you. That's the kind of thing that I want to use it for, and that's what I've been using it for, but not to create the content itself. So that's what I would say.
I think that's such an important point, in the sense that far too many people are trying to replace themselves or have stuff done for them, and it loses the you in the process.
Sure.
That personality, that experience. So.
Well, the other thing, just to add on to that, is that's also why in-person communications is more important than ever before. Like we didn't see this coming with the advent of AI tools, that you have in-person speakers who can do this. That's really become a bigger need. So not that we're all like professional speakers or whatever, but if you're thinking about growing your business, and you have a book that you can write, you have some articles in your newsletter that you can do, you're doing really well on LinkedIn. If you can add that in-person component, that's invaluable right now, because people still, with all this AI and all the internet and all the social, we still crave and need human contact as part of our business more than ever before, I think. So that's going to be critical. So if you're thinking about, hey, maybe I should go and speak at that university or go speak at that business conference, the answer is probably yes. I mean, if you look at my business, and this is before AI came along, really, when I started the business in 2007, I knew that there were three things that were going to make it. One was, what's my platform? Like, what's my home base where people can get access to my content? That was the website. It's like, how do I spread that? I do that by writing a book. I write a book every 2 years and have since 2008. So that's really important to my business model. And then what's butter? What's butter on toast? What cream cheese, whatever, jelly, jam, whatever you like. What makes all those things better? Speaking, that in-person experience. So what's your platform? What's that book? What's that business card that you can put down on the table that say, this represents me and my thinking and why I can say that I'm an expert in something? And then what brings that all together is that those regular speaking engagements, because honestly, that's where the business comes in, especially if you're a consultant. I mean, if you go out and they may hear you on a podcast, or they may subscribe to your newsletter. If they see you at an event, it solidifies that relationship, and they'll end up wanting to do business with you.
And that comes across in that what you mentioned earlier, that a long-term plan, 9 months, 18 months, 2 years, 3 years. It's not just I hear so many people, how can I format my post so I can get a result tomorrow morning? It's like,
and this is long. And by the way, this stuff. Okay, so here's a really good example. I wrote a post in what year was this? This was in April of 2007. Called "What is Content Marketing?" That post is still going today and still gets 500 to 1,000 people to that one post per day. Per day. I wrote insane. So if you think about now, the first year it didn't get 500 to 1,000 people to that post, but now it's been 15 years, and I talk about a return on investment. That's really, really done something. So again, I know that we want things to work out quicker. Like we actually, how do I get results immediately? That's just not a world we live in. I mean, most small businesses fail in the first 3 to 5 years. It's just a thing. So what's the most important thing that you need to do as a business person? Keep going. Get beyond the 3 years, beyond the 4 years, beyond the 5 years. And that's why I love the idea of content creation, building an audience, and content marketing, because it just keeps growing. You don't have to figure out, okay, I need new advertising, I need new promotion, I need to interrupt somebody on this platform and this platform. If you get somebody to subscribe to your podcast or your YouTube channel or your newsletter, wow, you don't have to pay for that anymore. Those will just keep hopefully reaping rewards for you over the years.
So I'm glad that you went, because that really nicely segues into my next question, which really falls in line with the title of this conversation about not building your house on somebody else's land. Now, in today's world, I remember the email list was like the kind of golden goose, as it were, a few years ago, and many still see that. But when you're on all these platforms, I mean, there are so many, whether it just be WhatsApp, then all the social media platforms, then it's your blog post, your website, your podcasts, all of that information. How do you bring that back so that you can stay firstly sane and manage all of those different bits of data? Where do you keep it central?
Well, the first point is define strategy. And if you look at what strategy is. Strategy is really about saying no to as many things as you possibly can, so you can say a big fat yes to a few things and be great at those things. So what you see most business owners or most marketers start doing is they'll launch into a certain area, they'll start communicating with an audience, and they'll say, okay, I have to be everywhere my customers are at. What do? I need to be on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, X, Snap, maybe Instagram. I want to do a newsletter, podcast, YouTube channel, and on, right? The average content marketer creates and distributes content 12 to 15 channels. And by the way, most of them are failing. They're not building an audience. They're going crazy. They're not seeing any results. Now, the truth is that no matter what resources we have a limited amount of what I call content energy. So just visualize, let's say all the content energy you have in a day is like a chocolate bar. It's like, okay, that's all I have. That's all I have. So I'm going to take that chocolate bar and I'm going to cut it into like 16 different parts. Okay. Well, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to put one of those bars, one of that pieces of energy on 16 different platforms? Or are you going to take them and put, I'm going to put 5 here, 7 here, and 6 here, and I'm going to be great at those. And if I do that, I'm going to have to say no to some of these other things. Now, when you get started, this is the absolute best way to do it. If you diversify immediately, you will not see success. I have not seen success with those types of case studies. I've seen success by choosing. So initially, you've got to choose a few. You might say, I'm going to do LinkedIn. I'm going to do the best podcast in my industry. And I'm going to have that podcast call to action go to a newsletter. Can I do those 3 and still be sane and run my business and all those things? Yeah, I think we can. With the limited resources we have, we're going to do that. Now, when you have 100,000 people in your audience and you've grown a big network and you can start hiring people, then you can start to add things. But when we started Content Marketing Institute, we said, okay, what can we do well? We're going to have the leading blog in our industry. We're going to do a research report. And then we're going to spend some time on Twitter and X. Pretty much that's how we started. When we built that audience, then we said, okay, then we're going to launch a magazine. Then we're going to do an event. Then we're going to do a podcast. All those things came 9 months later, 12 months later, another year later. Like, we didn't launch This Old Marketing Podcast until basically 6 years after we launched the company, because we were in a point where we could diversify. So here's the challenge, Mac. Almost every content creator gets to a point and they say, I'm immediately diversifying, and they've already killed their business. Please don't do that. So we have to simplify. You have to force yourself to make a decision, to that strategy we talked about, and say, you know what? I'm not going to be on Instagram, or I'm not going to create, let's say I'm not going to create content on Instagram. I'm not going to create content on YouTube. I'm not going to do these things so that I can do whatever you choose to do that you give that big emphatic yes to really, really well, and be the leader. Like a Mr. Beast that said, you know what, for right now, I'm not going to be on Facebook. I'm not going to be on X. I'm not going to do those other things. I'm just going to be on YouTube. Well, is he on all those things now? Yes. It's been 13 years. Yes. Now he has the resources. He can do whatever he wants. But in the beginning, you just need to choose. So that would be my recommendation. So hopefully people are out there. If I said it, or if anybody else said that you have to be everywhere online your customer is, that's bad advice. Do not do that. You can choose, just like the Harry Potter sorting hat. You can choose. You have a say. If you want to say, you have a say. Make a decision.
Joe, it's interesting because I have so many people come to me, and when we speak, they go, I want to do what so-and-so does. I see so-and-so, so I need to be doing this. I need to be doing it. But the big thing that they miss out on is, let's compare where you are in your journey to where they are on their journey.
Yeah.
And, I did exactly what you were saying now about being everywhere in 2008, 2009. I did what I call spray and pray approach, which was just, fling shit at the wall and hope something sticks. And that was it was literally just flinging stuff into a black hole. Who knows, I was everywhere, but actually I was nowhere. because I wasn't present. So what you were saying about choosing those 2 or 3 things, and for me, that's probably, we could probably end the conversation here with that singular advice about just knowing what you're going to be good at. Pick those 2 or 3 things. I mean, that's
again, yeah. No, you're and again, you have a choice. So let's say that somebody told you that you had to have a YouTube channel. Well, what if you don't like to do video? What if you're not good at it? What if you're a better writer? What if you have a face for radio? I don't know. Maybe it's a podcast, right? So what do you like to do? What are you good at doing? You should take these things into account before you decide, oh, so-and-so, oh, they did the YouTube thing, or they're doing the TikTok thing. I should do that. No, that doesn't mean anything. You could, by the way, you could be successful on almost every platform if you focus your time and energy to it and really figure it out and learn what works best and what doesn't. So that
okay.
you're not gonna miss. You just have to get over the FOMO. We have all FOMO. We feel we have this fear of missing out. You know what? You're just gonna have to be afraid that you're gonna miss out on a few things, and hopefully, great. I want you to. Like the best decision I probably ever made was just saying, you know what? I don't have time for Twitter X. I don't have time for Instagram. What do I have time for? I can be really good on LinkedIn. So I'm going to dedicate some time to LinkedIn. I can be really good on my podcast. I can be really good on my newsletter. That's all I have time for. If I give any more time to any other area, one of those other 3 are going to suffer. And I'm not willing to do that for my business. So I want to just keep those. Now, if I want to add some resources down the line, if I'm making a lot of money in one cat, great. Then you could add that other one on. But something's going to be taken away from you when you do that. You just have to realize it.
But that's the thing, is that everybody wants to be, whether it be a Joe or Gary V or, but they forget that they've been on that 10, 15 years ahead of them. So when that resource allows, hey, you can do anything. But look at where you are now. That is so important.
Gary V is actually a really good example. Gary V got really, really good at a thing called Wine Library TV on YouTube. Just focused on that video. And then one became really famous and really successful on that platform, then really diversified. Gary didn't just become 1 million followers on all these platforms immediately. Started on YouTube. We all have to start somewhere. It's okay. It's going to be fine. We'll make it through.
Learn to say no. Okay, Joe, I'm going to do some a fast fire through some questions for you.
Okay.
So that we can answer some of these questions.
And I will keep my answers brief. I promise.
Well, I'll try and keep my questions brief as well, because I can talk forever, especially knowing some of the stuff that we've got a gold mine that we've got access to, and I want to make sure that those watching get as much value as possible.
Shoot, I'm ready.
So
Let's go.
first question, why is relying on a single platform so risky to business owners? For example, companies that have suffered, do you know of companies that have suffered from platform changes, as an example?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, it depends on the platform. I think when you're saying platform, you probably mean other people's platforms. You're not talking about email. You're talking about YouTube or Vine or Google Plus. Those other 2 aren't around anymore. I worked with a company back in 2014 that had a really wonderful photography community of over 1 million on Google Plus. And then they got in the office the next day and Google Plus said, oh, we're shutting down. And the person just was crying their eyes out.
Yeah.
And you don't have any control over that. There's nothing you can do. So what I would recommend is, as a business owner, as a content creator, you should wake up every day thinking that those platforms you have no control over are going to go away. They just will. As much as you and I love LinkedIn, we don't have any control over that algorithm.
Yeah.
We don't know. They might just say, Joe and Mac, you're done. We don't want you anymore. Those things could happen. People get booted off of YouTube all the time. Of course, Twitter X happens all the time. Happens on Facebook, happens on Instagram. We can't control any of it. The algorithms have won, and we're not involved in that decision. Excuse me. So what I want to see is focus on 1 or 2. That's fine if you think that that's going to work for you, like we talked about before. but email is the one still today where you do have control over the data. You do have their information. You've got an opt-in permission to communicate with them. I like one platform from the outside, one social platform that feeds into an email newsletter that you have some control over.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm going to rapid fire through these and then we can carry on. How can businesses balance using platforms like Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc., while ensuring that they maintain control over their? You've pretty much answered that question already.
Yeah, but yeah. So real quick, don't use all those platforms. choose one or two, and you can't control the audience. The audience is going to do whatever they want. But you're saying, where do you have the most control over platforms? That is email. So if you are on a hierarchy of like from top to bottom, you have all your social channels at the bottom where you have no control and no say. And then in the middle, maybe you have podcasting, because it's a little bit, when somebody subscribes, they might actually see that the algorithm isn't getting in the way yet. And then at the top is, oh, email. I've got an email list. If I'm on Substack or MailChimp or Kit or whatever, I can take that email list and port it to someone else if I don't like that provider. So the most control is there. But again, you don't have any control over the audience, but you have some control over some of the platforms.
So let me, I'm just going to add to this kind of just another level to this question. Say, for example, there are so many Instagram coaches, LinkedIn coaches, X trainers, etc., etc. You know, so what you're saying is by building that email list, even if I'm, you know, an expert on a platform that tomorrow isn't there, because I have that email list, I can go back to them because, hey, guess what? I can learn another platform, so I can take that audience with me. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and you'll see this in speaking, right? And it's getting better. But let's say I'm a professional speaker, and I go and I speak in front of you and and an audience, and I say, contact with me. You can find me on X. You can find me on Facebook. Connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram. Okay. Let's say I sold a product. And I'm saying, don't come to my store. Go to these other stores. I don't have any control of the shelf space there, but go to the other stores, see if you can find me there with all the other people. No, what you want to say is go to my website, connect with me on my newsletter that you'll get a lot of value to. And all you have to do is give me an email address. I'm going to send you something of value for free. Do that. So at least you have something, and that's and it's fine. I get it. I mean, sometimes it is easier for people to connect with others on a LinkedIn or something else. But if you come up with a really good content strategy and you get them, you've got people on X or Twitter that are interested in you, or people on LinkedIn or Instagram, send them somewhere where they will give you data. And in exchange for the data, you're going to provide value to them on a regular basis. And then you have an asset. You've built an asset that you can monetize, that you can sell stuff through, that the only reason you're going to lose them is if you send really bad stuff and they unsubscribe. So you really built something of value, and you could take that for years and years and years and keep growing your business over and over again.
Well, I'm going to just confess live here right now that is a mistake that I've made. And will change as of tomorrow. Thanks, Joe. Because as an example, when I do public speaking events, I have a QR code. Go and connect with me on LinkedIn. Follow me there. But I don't have control over that data.
QR code takes them to a really nice offer, and you can do it. You know, give them a free report, give them something that's really going to be of value. And oh, by the way, the way that I say it is, hey, I'd love you to subscribe. I think I'm going to deliver value. And you know what? If I don't, and you don't like it, please unsubscribe. Just give them permission. If you give them permission to do that, they're more likely to do it. But, you know, my 50,000 subscribers that I have are the most important thing that I have versus, you know, what I have 250,000 on LinkedIn or 150,000 on Twitter or X. I would change the 150,000 on X in 2 seconds for 5,000 email subscribers. I wouldn't even think twice about it.
Okay. If you're watching this post-production, rewind, replay that section because that is so important. Oh man. Okay. Next question. Are we only on 3? The first steps a business owners should take to shift away from a platform dependency and start building their own digital space.
I still think the website is really important. And if you don't have resources to do that, it doesn't cost very much. Usually for an email platform, If you have under, let's say, 2,000 contacts, you could probably use the email for free. I know MailChimp does that for sure. Your website, if it's not a full build out, like joepulizzi.com is a wonderful WordPress template. I have somebody that manages that site. If you're not at that point, getting a Wix site or something that's $25 a month is totally fine. But start with your own assets and things that you can control first. Email, website, and then pick that one social platform, and I would start there.
Amazing. Thanks, Jacqueline. Great tips there, Joe. Let's go on to the next one. Okay. In your experience, what are the key traits that separate businesses that successfully diversify their content strategy from those that remain dependent on one platform?
Yeah. Again, I don't want to be redundant, but get success in one area first. So we focused on our website as our core platform. Website and email newsletter. I got to about 10,000 subscribers of my email as for business marketers. I felt that was good. And when we got to that point, we're like, okay, now we can launch the magazine we wanted to launch. Or maybe in your case, it might be, okay, now I can launch the webinar series, or I can do that research report or whatever. So start small, figure out that one thing that's really important to you. Give yourself 6 to 9 months there to really start building that out. And then you might say, okay, now I'm going to go to another platform. And really, even if you get to be the expert in whatever your content niche is, you probably don't have to go past 2 social platforms. You don't. And by the way, you talked about being everywhere in 2008 and 2009 and wanting to be everywhere. There was an app called Ping FM. And Ping FM would take like a tweet and put it on 92 different places at one time. That was the thing. We really felt if we could spam everybody at one time, that was a good strategy. Well, where can you afford to spend time that's going to make a difference for your relationships with your audience? So figure out, okay, maybe if it's Instagram, LinkedIn, or if it's X Instagram or Facebook, whatever. And then you can add one. And then at some point you're going to get to a point where like, yeah, that I'm going to stop. I've diversified enough.
Yep. 100%. Okay, number 5. You've often said, we've just covered that one. Don't build your house on somebody else's land. What advice would you give to business owners who are starting and might not have the resources, as you said?
Yeah, everyone, you can absolutely have the resources. If you say that it costs you too much to do something, you're doing it wrong. It's a handful of dollars to get started. Now, when you get up to 10,000 and 15,000 subscribers, you're going to have to pay an email provider for that. It's going to be hundreds of dollars a month, but you're not there yet. And when you're paying $100,000 a month and you have 10,000 subscribers, you're probably monetizing that really well. So don't worry about it.
Yeah. Spot on. As an entrepreneur who has built and sold multiple successful businesses, how did you ensure that you maintain control over your audience and brand while leveraging an external platform?
You don't have control over anything once you let it out there. And you know what?
Yep.
Just lean into it. It's okay. What we want to do is we want to give away our expertise as much as we can so it will come back to us. It's like think about the best situation for karma you could possibly think of. If I just keep giving away free information and helping people as much as I possibly can, it will work. It feels like even if you're a consultant, you're like, how can I give? Don't worry about it. When that gets into somebody else's hands, most people that will pay you, they don't want to do it themselves. That's why they're going to pay you to do it. But how do they know? You will already sell them by giving away this amazing information. So keep doing that over and over. Believe that model works and you'll succeed.
I think that's one of the things that people are so guarded over their ISP as it were, because they're so worried that people are going to steal their content or repurpose it, or and really that's worth, even if people take it and steal it, for me that's like a compliment.
I love it. And it's a tough mentality change. I mean, we used to be so protective over it. That is not the one that I believe in. That is not a content marketing or part of the content marketing philosophy. Like, I've had people come to me, probably over 100 people have said, can I take a chapter from you? Can I have an article? Can I repurpose your video webinar? The answer is always yes. It's always yes. I don't care who's asking. Yes, yes, yes. Now, is there some occasion where you got some bad actors? Sure. There's been a few situations, but overwhelming, it's been positive. So what I want to do, even in this age of AI, especially in this age of AI, I want to send out as many signals as I can possibly can that I'm an expert. Because if you do that, oh, I landed on that website, I landed in that webinar, I'm in that book, I'm whatever. How is AI learning? They're learning off all that stuff. And oh, by the way, like, and if you go and do it and say, who are the top 5 leading experts in content marketing? I haven't done it, but I'm assuming if you go on to ChatGPT, I figure I'm probably on the list, because all the data that AI learned off of is just going out to other human-made content, and they're going to find it. That's what I want for everyone listening to this. So just give it away, give it away, give it away. As the esteemed philosophers, Red Hot Chili Peppers, have said, give it away.
I'm gonna have that tune stuck in my head now forever.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I had to go there. They're great in concert, by the way.
Okay. Before I get sidetracked with my ADHD, here we go. What is the most common mistakes business owners make when it comes to gurus on platforms, and how can they avoid them?
Oh man! If anyone calls themselves a guru, run. No gurus. No gurus, not allowed. I guess what I would say is, before you pay for anything, ask for, like, if you've done your searching and you're still struggling, you need some accountability. There are a lot of good professionals that are willing to help you. Ask them first. Get into those conversations. I would always do a call first. Never do a thing where you have to pay for something before you. Every wonderful consultant out there that was willing to help you will do a pre-call with you. Do the pre-call, and then you'll weed them out. If they're a good person, you could do business with them. Sometimes I like coaches. I'd rather use coaches than gurus. I like coaches because they keep people accountable. If you need that to be successful, that's fine.
Awesome. Love. Okay, next one. How do you see the future of content platforms evolving? Are there any trends that marketers should be preparing for right now?
Well, unfortunately, the algorithms have won. We talked about that, and they're getting better and better. I don't want to get into the whole TikTok thing right now, but like, I'm not on TikTok. Their own research came out this week through some of the lawsuits that are going on, and TikTok knows that they're doing a big destruction to a lot of people in the world and our kids, causing anxiety, causing this horror. You're not getting good sleep when you're addicted to these platforms. It's not helping your relationships, suicidal tendencies, all horrible things. And by the way, it's not just TikTok, it's Instagram, it's Facebook as well, it's Snap, it's all of them. What I think, so couch that with, I think that's going to mean regulation. I think ultimately social media platforms, good or bad, and I'm not a fan of regulation, but I think they're going to be treated like tobacco, alcohol. They're going to need to be regulated because they're that dangerous to people. And we're just now learning about it. So I like books. I like audiobooks. I like newsletters. I like articles. I like YouTube where I'm not being fed the algorithm. I like podcasts that I can subscribe to people that I really find interesting. Those are the things that I want to focus my time on, because I'm a little bit unsure of what's going on with those social platforms.
And I love the way you put that, because it's kind of stripping back all the noise and focusing on those like real human elements, stuff that's tangible, the things that you can trust.
I want book recommendations from my friends. I want podcast recommendations from my friends. I think that we write better when we read books. You know, I have very old school. I love print. I think there's huge opportunities with print magazines, maybe not for the audience listening, but if you're a content marketer out there, number one on my list is do a print magazine, do an in-person event. I think that those, and by the way, it's easier to differentiate with those because there's less competition. Anybody, as we said, can do a TikTok channel, can do YouTube. Not anyone can do a very thoughtful documentary, a very thoughtful book on the topic. Those are things that I really think there's opportunities.
Absolutely. And there's something weird about, just having a tangible book and the smell of a new book when you page through it, and it's, the feel of real page. It's something weird.
By the way, still the best business card on the planet. Like, if you have a book It says something. It says that you took the time to put this together before I've even read it. Somebody took time. It takes months and months and a labor of love to do a book. So that tells me something about you as the individual.
Well, I've been threatening to do a book for about 5 years, Joe. So
there you go. Now's the time.
Got to get that done. Final question. With your extensive experience in content marketing, what strategies have you seen that work best for turning an audience into a loyal community that follows you no matter what platform? Now, you've mentioned your 50,000 strong email platform as an example or resource.
So yeah, so we talked about email to death, so I won't bring it up again. But I think for a business, you can communicate with your company. So let's say your company's at the top. So think about an email newsletter. It could go out from the company. It won't be very successful. Secondarily, it could go out from a content brand. So what you call the magazine or the newsletter, like my newsletter is called Orange Letter. So it could come from Orange Letter, come from some other entity that you make out that is not your official brand. That's okay. It's a little bit better. Still not as good. What's the best thing that you could do? Have it come from the individual. So if you have a company and you do a newsletter, it should come from a person. There's a lot of, you might feel there's a lot of risk in that, but the closer that we can get from human to human contact, the better it's going to be for your business. So if you have somebody leading your YouTube channel, it's a person. That person should be doing that. Give them the creative freedom to do what they need to do. Have them build an audience. Have them help you build an audience, and it will pay off in droves. So think of it like you have a sports team. So, well, who's going to drive interest in that sports team? My players. Let them go. Let them market. Let them write. Let them create videos. So
incredible. Quite a few comments there about great tips, Joe. People are going to be team replay, all kinds of things. And I'm conscious we've got about 3. I can't believe how quickly this conversation has gone.
Fast.
But they say that time flies when you're having fun. So for those of you people that are watching it and they've got this far, I'd like just one final kind of thought from you, just with regards to marketing in general, and then we'll come back and do a bit of a wrap up.
It can be daunting, so make it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't be overwhelmed by all the choices. So give yourself the flexibility to say, I'm going to just do one thing and create the habit. So if that's a newsletter or that's content on your website or it's a YouTube channel, just start building the habit. When do you, if you're going to do an article twice a week, Monday and Friday, start by writing a very short article and publishing it. Then you'll start to grow and grow and grow. If I look back on my content that I started in 2007, it's terrible. It was, and probably still is today, but in 15 years from now, I'll probably say the content today is terrible. Start somewhere, build the habit, get into, today is newsletter day. Today's article day. Today's YouTube day. Do that. And before you know it, you'll start to work out the bugs and create something really special for your audience.
Oh, it comes back to that whole KISS thing, keep it simple.
Keep it simple. You got it.
So I've had somebody else send me a message, not on one of the social platforms, just directly. I'll try and squeeze this in. If you're a single marketer, which there are hundreds of thousands of people that are just an individual doing marketing for people, and you want to grow that into an agency so that you're not the only person there, what advice would you give that individual?
So many things. So today, whoever asked that question, where do you want to be in 5 years? What does it? Write that down. I am a 10-person agency focusing on B2B marketing, whatever it is. Write that down. This is who you're going to be in 5 years. Put a date on it. Get up every day and read that. Before you go to sleep at night, every day, read that. That's the most important thing you can do. By doing that, you'll make it a reality. But you've got to do it every day. Write it down on paper. Read it twice a day. It'll make a difference.
Oh, Joe, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for spending this time and just being, straightforward, honest, open, transparent, not being afraid of any of the questions, umming and ahhing around it. I think I am and ah more in the questions than anything else. But, what can people do for you that have watched this up until now? Because from what you've said to me, prior to this and just from following you over the years, you love helping people, making a difference. How can people help you? Where can they go? What books should they read?
So if you like this philosophy, Content Inc. is probably the best book. If I do a newsletter that I'm really proud of called the Orange Letter, go to joepulizzi.com. Please subscribe. If you don't like it, you can unsubscribe. But the thing you can really do for me is we have a nonprofit called Orange Effect Foundation. We focus on kids and families who need speech therapy and can't afford it. If you have $5, $10, $15, and you want to give to theorangeeffect.org, that is probably the number one thing that I could ask.
Amazing. Joe, I'm going to be sharing some of the links just to that in the comments so that people can go and check that out. That's a whole nother conversation, because that's
we'll do it again
about one day. Absolutely.
We'll do it again, Mac. It'll be
absolutely fun. Indeed. But Joe, thank you. We're going to wrap up and end the stream, but thank you so much. Go and check out Joe. Make sure that you're following him. Go and drop some comments if you have any other questions that we can get back to as well. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have a fantastic evening or morning or afternoon, wherever you are.
Awesome.